Are you a sucker for mystery and thrillers just like me? Did you love Gone Girl, The Silent Victim, or The Girl on the Train? Then you are definitely gonna love these books. Hi guys, my name is Angela, your own bookaholic brownin. Today I am going to recommend 5 underrated crime slash psychological thrillers to you. I hope you really enjoy it. And if you are an avid fantasy reader, for a palate cleanser, you can still try one of these. So yeah, don't skip this video, please watch through it. It might inspire you to read something different than usual. So without further ado, let's roll the intro and get into it. Before we get into the recommendations, I would like to let you know that in this channel we talk about books, and books. I am a complete book nerd. So if you love books the way I do, please do subscribe to my channel and also like and share so that more and more bookaholics can discover this channel and we can talk about books. The first book that I want to recommend to you is a book by Rachel Kane. It is called Still House Lake. Now, this is book 1 of a 5-part book series. It's a thriller. The story goes like this. So there is this woman, her name is Gina Royal, and she is living a very peaceful life with her husband and 2 children, and it's a very happy marriage until one day when all of them are out of the house for shopping or something. A motor vehicle accident happens at their house. A driver crashes into their garage, and what do you know? It is revealed that her husband has a very sinister secret life, that he is a serial killer. He's been capturing women, bringing them to their homes, and torturing them in their garage, soundproof garage, and killing them. Initially, she has to face the wrath of neighbors and press and authorities because they think that she has a hand in this. She knew this all along because it's impossible for somebody to live in the same house and not realize that something like this, like a horrifying murder, torture and murder of innocent women is happening, right? On the other side of the wall. Anyways, she is acquitted and her husband is put in prison, obviously. But the abuses continue. People do not still believe that she is innocent, and she is faced with extreme internet trolling, and her kids are abused and uh, followed and stalked, and so they are forced to leave that place. And this continues several times. So she is fleeing across the country with her 2 kids to find some kind of stability. At last they reach this place called Stillhouse Lake, where nobody knows her past, and she believes that she can give her children a secure, safe, normal life, shielded from all these abuse. While they are settling down, finally thinking that everything is going to be calm, all hell breaks loose, and the story and the plot continues from there. And to find out what it is, you need to read that book. It was completely captivating for me. I really enjoyed every moment of this book. Actually, I listened to the audiobook. So as I had mentioned previously, all my crime thrillers, psychological thrillers, I listen to the audiobooks because that's easier for me. I think most of the narrators do a fantastic job with the narration, so I prefer listening to them. And also it saves me a lot of time because the actual reading of the books, I keep that aside for my fantasy books, but thrillers, I love to listen to them. The audiobook was wonderful. I really enjoyed this. So guys, check it out. The part 2 of this series is called Kilman Creek. So out of the 5, I have read 2. I have 3 more to read. I will definitely read it sometime during this year. It's not just a plain crime thriller, written down to provide you jump starts and cheap thrills, but actually there is so much to take away, because it makes you realize how much the victims of internet trolling and stalking go through, and how much of a mental trauma it is for them, especially for the kids. It is really, really engrossing and engaging, and at the same time you have takeaways as well from this book. So that was book number 1, which is Stillhouse Lake. And also check out the other books in the series because all of them have a rating about 4. So that's a good indicator of how good these books are. The second book that I want to recommend to you is The Weight of Silence by Greg Olson. This is book number 2 in the Nicole Foster series. But I haven't read book number 1. I don't know why I started with book number 2, because I think I didn't realize it was part of a series. But it did not, take anything away from me enjoying the book. It was really good. You don't need the background information because there is references to what happens in book number 1, and you can read book number 2 individually, separate from book number 1, having not read that. The story is about a woman called Nicole Foster, and she is a police detective. After her troublesome past with the gambling addiction, etc., she moves to her hometown, which is somewhere near Washington coast, and they're in the middle of the hottest August in a century. And during this time, a father forgets his toddler in a car, in a locked car, and the kid pass away sadly. And Nicole Foster and her partner are called in to investigate this case, and that's the story about. They are trying to find out if the father did it purposefully, which is unthinkable, or was it really an accident, or was there something else totally behind this whole fiasco. That's the story, guys. At some point it becomes very predictable, but still you can really enjoy it. It is a very dark theme that, a child dies in such tragic circumstances, but it is also a good thriller, and you can read it maybe in one sitting also. So try it out. The Weight of Silence by Greg Olson. You're reading a book, and then you come across this character who is so hateful, who is so loathsome that you want to just throttle that person. Have you ever felt that? Now, while reading this thriller, I felt that definitely. I'm talking about a book by Carolyn Mitchell, which is called Truth and Lies, which is book 1 of the D.I. Amy Winter crime thriller series. The entire series follows D.I. D.I. is Detective Inspector. That's how they are addressed in the UK, I think. So this detective, Amy Winter, she is the daughter of a police officer, a highly respected police officer who recently passed away. She is trying to cope with her loss, and at the same time she is determined to follow in her father's footsteps and become a respectable police officer herself. And currently, she and her fellow police officers are investigating the case involving the kidnapping of a young girl who was picked up by some unknown person right from her front yard. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, Amy Winter receives a letter from a woman called Lillian from the prison, claiming that she is her birth mother, and she would like to meet her. And interestingly, and unfortunately, this woman Lillian, she is one part of a notorious husband-wife serial killer who were active back in the 70s. Amy is obviously shocked and taken aback by this revelation. Anyway, she goes to the prison and she meets this despicable woman. And why did Lillian call Amy to the prison to meet? It's because she wants to reveal the location of where 3 of the victims from the 70s, serial killing, were buried. Why is she playing this? She is not revealing it yet. It's still a mystery, but she is definitely trying to play Amy. So will Amy agree to Lillian's terms, and will she be successful in finding these missing bodies? And will she be able to solve the current case of the missing young girl who has been abducted? To find out, all you have to do is read the book by Carolyn Mitchell, which is Truth and Lies. The fourth book that I want to recommend to you is a book by Peter Swanson, which is called The Kind Worth Killing. Now, the plot goes something like this. There is this guy who's taking a flight from London to Boston. His name is Ted Severson. And during this flight, he meets a woman named Lily Kidner. And they strike up a conversation over a couple of martinis, and the conversation becomes quite personal. And during this conversation, Ted reveals that he is having a bad time with his marriage, that his marriage is going down the drain. Mostly it will end up in divorce very soon because his wife cheated on him. He very jokingly during the conversation mentions that maybe I should kill her, and then Lily says, hey, if you're serious about it, I can definitely help you in doing that. Why don't we meet up in Boston? And he thinks it's a joke, but as the conversation progresses, he understands that this woman is very serious. She really wants to help him. Bizarre as it may seem, they make a deal. They say that they won't exchange numbers, but they will meet up at some place at some time, and if they both make up their mind on what they're going to do. That is basically killing Ted's wife. What Ted doesn't know is that Lily has a very dark past, and that is heavily influencing on this particular case. How it is, what it is, you will find out while reading the book. So that is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. Now I want to read out to you a particular passage from this book, which is a very sociopathic quote. Truthfully, I don't think murder is necessarily as bad as people make it out to be. Everyone dies. What difference does it make if a few bad apples get pushed along a little sooner than God intended? And your wife, for example, seems like the kind worth killing. So that's the sociopathic quote for you. If you love psychological thrillers, you're definitely going to enjoy this book. Even though I said that I'm not ranking these books in any particular order of preference, I still save the best for the last, which is Untouchable by Sybil Hodge. My goodness, this was a very dark book to read. I have to give you trigger warnings on child abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, corporal punishment. It was very dark. At some point I wanted to just discontinue because it was getting too much for me, and especially because I'm listening to it with the narrator adding all kind of emotions and feelings in. It was really affecting me, so I discontinued. But after 2 days, I remembered reading somewhere that this is based on a real life police investigation. And that made me read it because this is something that has happened to some real people, real persons. And if I cannot read it, how much of a coward am I? So I wanted to read this book, and I am really happy that I did complete this book. It can really affect you at some point, so I'm giving you trigger warnings, but at the same time you should read this particular topic which talks about child abuse. I know we tend to avoid these topics, but sometimes we need to bring these topics up and talk. I think that these topics are not something to be pushed under the carpet and forgotten about, but needs to be addressed and talked about in the society. So this book really does that. And yeah, check it out. It really is a good thriller. Like I said, it is not a psychological thriller, it's kind of a crime thriller, but yes, it will affect you psychologically. So that was Untouchable by Sybil Hodge. That's it, guys. Those were my 5 recommendations for psychological slash crime thrillers. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will pick them up and read because they are all really good. So until next time, this is Angela signing off. Bye bye.